I just did a video on things that have helped me in healing my CPTSD, and there was a piece that I forgot to mention because it's done so much more than just helping me with that. It's helped transform my relationship with myself, my relationship with others, my whole outlook and mentality on life. And that is learning the drama triangle, the victim triangle. If you're not familiar, the victim triangle is something that was created by a transactional an analyst named Stephen Cartman, and it has 3 roles: the victim, the savior, and the persecutor, or rescuer persecutor. And these are roles that we consistently play into constantly in interrelational dynamics, and they are really the foundation of so much of our family dysfunction. Really learning what these roles are and how I fall into them, each one, and which one I fall into the most and the most habitually, has helped me tremendously. Because in my family, I was the savior, the rescuer. I was the one who carried responsibility for everyone's well-being, which in turn made me disregard my own. I was like the peacemaker, as my mother would call me. And it was kind of my responsibility, both given and taken on, to make sure that everyone was okay emotionally. Like I carried the weight of everyone's emotional experiences and took the responsibility for everything that was happening wrong and took the responsibility to try to make everything right. And really the savior does this for a number of reasons. One, to avoid their own experience. That's part of it, right? Another one, to kind of control the circumstances around them in order to create some sense of safety. And then the third one is like ego, essentially, so that, I can feel like I'm doing good. I can feel like a good person. But what is actually happening is that when I am playing that role and I am rescuing people who really have the capability to help themselves and save themselves, I'm creating codependency and enabling and just really perpetuating the dysfunction. So learning about that was incredibly essential, and learning about how I fall into the victim as well. Like, what was me? Why does this always happen to me? Why is my life always like this? Feeling incapable and powerless, and feeling like I have no control over what my experience is. And then there's the persecutor who, really projects all of the blame and shame on other people and attacks other people in order to avoid their own emotional experience. And we don't stay stuck in any of these roles. We kind of, shift around. There is most often one that we are kind of most fluent and comfortable in. For me, that was savior rescuer. But I also fell into the other ones over and over again throughout my life. And so really learning what these dynamics are, and the way that the dynamics show up in certain circumstances, and how to shift out of it into a more empowered state from whatever role I'm playing, was incredibly essential. So instead of enabling and doing for and taking responsibility for other people, instead inspiring their own inherent capabilities and helping kind of guide them through of what they can do based off of what options are available to them at that time. And whenever I'm feeling persecuted and wanting to shift blame or rage onto another person because of what is happening or what I'm feeling, that's an invitation to me to look at what is going on inside of me, and what do I need to challenge? What do I need to kind of do to inspire change in the circumstance that I'm in, or the situation that I'm in, or the dynamic that I'm in, without making it an attack? And then when I fall into victim, it's like an invitation to be like, oh, okay, I can see that I'm feeling incredibly powerless and hopeless right now. But that's not, I know that that's not true. So what's one step that I can do right now that can help my circumstance, no matter how small. And most often when you take the small step, it leads to bigger steps, or at least, a sequence of smaller steps that lead you to a better space. But it's really important to differentiate between being victim in one of these three roles, and like perpetuating that victim mindset versus being victimized. And that's something that like I really need to stress, because I have been a victim so many times in my life, and I spent a lot of time gaslighting myself to believe that that wasn't true, while at the same time falling into victim mentality through these three roles. But really understanding that there is a difference between having been a victim and perpetuating that victim mindset. When something happens to you that is out of your control, that hurts you, when you are on the receiving end of someone's abuse, wrath, intentional pain, like you are a victim, and it's important to acknowledge that and recognize that and validate your own experience and not blame yourself for it. And there comes a certain point where if you find yourself perpetuating these behaviors of helplessness and really disempowerment is where all of it comes from, then you have a choice to change that. So it's about validating what happened and processing what happened and being with yourself in that emotional experience of what happened, and also accepting it and deciding how you're going to move forward, because you can't change what happened, but you can, choose how you're going to move forward. So it's not about denying that you were a victim or are a victim, but it's about deciding what you're going to do with that. And for me, a lot of it looked like really having to be really honest with myself for the ways that I was enabling, especially family members, and deciding to hold really firm boundaries and to inspire and encourage them and guide them to taking the actions that they need to take care of themselves, but also holding the boundaries so that I'm not getting stuck in a cycle of codependency. And when I'm feeling victim-y myself, it's really about recognizing that I get to make choices to change my circumstances. And that happened to me, but that doesn't mean that I need to keep living in that reality loop over and over and over. It never makes what happened okay, but it can make the future better. And the persecutor role is always an invitation to deal with your fucking feelings every single time. It's like, what are you, when I'm feeling that I'm blaming and wanting to, attack other people for whatever reason, I know that there's something that I need to look at within myself and be within myself. There's some sort of pain and hurt there. I mean, that's like your typical, that's a bully. Learning this and implementing this radically changed my life. When I really started implementing this, it shifted the landscape of every single relationship that I had, the landscape with me and myself and my internal self-talk and the way that I operate, and just changed absolutely everything. And so this is something that I teach my clients now. I have a course that will be coming out in the next month or so, that really goes into this and how to transmute each role, while honoring the circumstances that you have been a victim in, but helping you really decide how you're going to move forward and shift those habitual patterns that we fall into, and therefore have really empowered relationships and friendships and family dynamics, and implement the boundaries, both personal and external, and changing the internal self-talk, because that whole, victim, savior, persecutor thing plays out in your own mind all the fucking time. And so when you can bring awareness to it and kind of shift that, like the drama, both internal and external, really melt away in a really powerful way.